Hello and welcome to another Planet Destiny exotic weapon review. If you're asking, Patrick, isn't this like the fourth time you've reviewed the gun, then I would say, yeah, it is. Fortunately, Bungie has actually changed some stuff, so let's take a look at the perks. For the muzzles, we have accurized ballistics, more range and impact, increased recoil. CQB ballistics, greatly reduced recoil, significant penalty to range. And finally, aggressive ballistics, more predictable recoil, enhanced impact, shorter range, and more recoil. For Hardlight, I just use aggressive ballistics. The recoil pattern is, in my opinion, the easiest to control. While CQB ballistics does offer the highest stability, you really can't tell that much of a difference when shooting at a wall. Once you take in recoil correction on your part into account, aggressive ballistics damage boost is just worth the slight range hit, even though there isn't a lot of damage fall off on this gun. If you're wondering why accurized ballistics isn't an option for me, it's because it's just best to focus on stability and grouping on this gun. More about that a little bit later though. Since this is an Omelon weapon, the main perk Volatile Light is in the first spot. Volatile Light will cause rounds fired from the weapon to have no damage fall off, over-penetrate targets, and ricochet off hard surfaces. So first off, I know this perk says it makes the rounds have no damage fall off. That isn't true. They still have damage fall off, just not at the normal range you would expect. You really won't start seeing damage numbers change until you're shooting targets in like sniper rifle range. This is great because it means you can just focus on the muzzle perks that help out with stability. As far as the over-penetrating shots and ricochet rounds go, this mostly feels like a gimmick. The over-penetrating rounds can be useful in areas where enemies are grouped up. The ricochet rounds, though, are pretty much for show. It's extremely difficult and unreliable to actually hit things with them. In PvP, I would actually hit myself more than I hit enemies when trying to bank them around corners. They do look pretty sweet though. The next row of perks offers Quick Draw. This weapon can be drawn unbelievably fast, and Fitted Stock increases weapon stability. Just go with Fitted Stock. Hardlight already has a decent handling speed, and what you really need on this gun is stability. The final column of perks offers Glass Half Full, which causes the bottom half of each magazine to cause additional damage, and Spray and Play increases the reload speed of this weapon when the mag is empty. I pretty much only use Glass Half Full when messing around with the gun. It's interesting to note that both perks in the last column require you to empty your magazine to get their full potential. With that in mind, Glass Half Full starts working when you reach the bottom half of your mag, while you can easily go a long time without ever using Spray and Play if you reload before the magazine is empty. Plus, Glass Half Full makes damage numbers go up, which is always good. Alright, so before we get into PvP and PvE, I need to get one major gripe with the gun out of the way. Even though you can get the stability to 100% maxed out, you cannot fix one glaring issue when firing the gun: screen shake. Whether you have maxed out stability with 3 stacks of Gunslinger's Trance or the lowest stability stat possible on the gun, it's the one thing that will always mess with your aim. Just look at this comparison. On the right, Hardlight is using CQB ballistics with Fitted Stock for absolute max stability. On the left, Monte Carlo is using aggressive ballistics at a little bit over 60 stability. It probably has something to do with the recoil direction stat on Hardlight, which is at 100, whereas Monte Carlo is at 80. Whatever the case may be, Hardlight has a stupidly aggressive screen shake associated with firing it, which makes using it in any situation more challenging. So how does the gun perform in PvE? Well, it certainly doesn't warrant its exotic weapon slot. That's for sure. The over-penetrating and ricochet rounds are, as I said earlier, a gimmick. Trying to take advantage of them is pointless since they don't increase your damage in any way outside of unbelievably niche circumstances. One of the only places where both perks worked in tandem was on Valis Tuareg. You can shoot him, have the rounds over-penetrate, ricochet off the wall behind him, and then deal damage to him again. But that is literally the only fight where that was useful. The over-penetrating rounds do make quick work of groups of enemies stacked together, but then again so does any weapon with Firefly. The fact that the rounds do not have damage fall off is good though. That makes the weapon useful at a slightly longer range than normal auto rifles. Unfortunately, due to the heavy screen shake, that stellar range cannot be taken advantage of since your shots are just flying around all over the place. You cannot kill the forces of the darkness by putting on a kick-ass laser light show. You have to at least hit them with lasers in the face. However, when you do hit targets at the optimal range, Hardlight performs well. Aggressive ballistics on this archetype of auto rifle has always been a great way to pump damage into enemies, and the inclusion of Glass Half Full does increase that by a bit. The 40-round magazine is in that perfect spot where you can easily take down a shielded mob without ever having to swap weapons beforehand, and precise shooting, however difficult that may be, will lead to a lot of dead majors. If I'm going into a raid though, I put Hardlight away. Auto rifles have a pretty nasty ammo issue since it takes a good portion of the magazine to kill something. The screen shake that makes accurate shooting a problem means that you expel more ammo than needed. I guess a short summary of Hardlight in PvE is, it's fun to mess around with, but under no circumstances will it outperform the vendor-rolled hung jury. Moving on to PvP, Hardlight is pretty much in the same boat as PvE. While it performs well in the closer ranges, it suffers from being able to take advantage of that increased range because of that screen shake. The ricochet rounds are hilarious to use in PvP though. I highly doubt you will land any consistent kills with them, but you can catch people by surprise with them. I could lock down a doorway pretty easily just by spraying down corners on Black Shield. Of course, I ended up hitting myself a few times. The over-penetrating rounds also helped out in the 6v6 game modes. At the start of rounds, enemies often group up on each other and can be bursted down by some well-placed shots. You probably won't kill all of them in a fantastic multi-feed, but you will damage all of them enough that your teammates can land some kills easier, netting you assist points. Once again though, if you're looking for an exotic primary for PvP, Hardlight isn't the most consistent weapon to use. If you want an exotic auto rifle of this archetype, Monte Carlo wins. For cosmetics, nothing has changed about the gun itself. However, the designers at Bungie clearly thought that the weapon needed more lasers, and I for one agree and think that they should make them bounce around even more, because this looks awesome. The sights on the gun have always been one of my favorites. One of the first mods I ever made for a game was making a new UI in Medal of Honor so I could select different crosshairs I made. This circle with the red dot in the center is really similar to that, so it brings back some good memories. Plus, the red dot is just so clear that it makes precision shooting a dream. Well, it makes getting the first shot off a dream at least. The screen shake is the one thing really holding back the gun. It's a shame because aesthetically, Hardlight is one of the coolest guns in the game that I would like to see used more. It's the only Omlon auto rifle as of this review, and it just makes me want to see more from the different weapon foundries. I know I didn't have a lot of kind words for it in this video, but mainly because I have to judge exotics on the fact that it's an exotic. Since Hardlight's only real ability is so niche and the screen shake is so heavy compared to every other exotic and legendary auto rifle, I just had to be harsh on it. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to use, but it's just far from optimal. I hope you guys found this review helpful. This has been Patrick Casey with Planet Destiny, your guide to the Destiny universe.